I want to start by saying I'm not someone who scares easily. I grew up in a house where the pipes groaned every winter and the floorboards creaked like something was always walking around upstairs. My dad used to joke that our house had personality, so I learned early to explain away sounds. Settle myself down, go back to sleep. That instinct almost got me killed. It was a Thursday night in late October. My roommate Priya had driven up to her parents' place for the long weekend, so the apartment was mine. I remember feeling genuinely happy about it. I ordered pad thai from this place 2 blocks over, poured myself a glass of white wine, and watched 3 episodes of a show I'd been putting off. Normal, calm, completely ordinary. I went to bed around 12:30. I remember checking my phone before I put it face down on the nightstand. 12:34 a.m. I'd been texting my friend Donnie about nothing, memes mostly. I told her I was going to sleep. She sent back a thumbs up. I put the phone down. I was out within minutes. I don't know what time it was when I woke up. I didn't check. What I know is that one second I was asleep and the next I was completely fully awake. The kind of awake where your body has already decided something is wrong before your brain has caught up. My eyes were open. My chest was tight. I was lying perfectly still, staring at the ceiling, and I didn't know why. I told myself it was nothing. House sounds, the radiator. The couple upstairs who walked around in hard-soled shoes at all hours. I was just about to close my eyes again. That's when I heard it. My name. Not loud, not screamed, whispered low and slow, like someone was tasting the sound of it. Like they'd been waiting to say it. Leah? It came from the closet. The closet that was 6 feet from the foot of my bed. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just lay there with every single muscle in my body locked up, staring at the thin strip of darkness under the closet door. My brain ran through the options in about 2 seconds flat. Priya was gone. No one else had a key. The front door had been locked. I always double check. Always. I checked it before I went to bed. I told myself I'd imagined it. Half asleep brain, mixing up dream sounds with real ones. It happens. That's a real thing that happens. Then the closet door shifted. Not opened. Just moved. Like something inside had leaned against it. Just enough for the latch to click softly against the frame. I was out of bed before I even made the decision to move. I grabbed my phone off the nightstand and I ran. Not to the front door. The bedroom was at the end of the hall, and to get to the front door, I would have had to pass the closet. I went the other way, into the bathroom. Locked the door. Sat down on the cold tile floor with my back against the wall under the towel rack, knees pulled to my chest, phone in both hands. I was shaking so badly I mistyped my passcode 3 times. I called 911. I whispered to the operator that I thought someone was in my apartment. She stayed on the line. Gosh. She told me officers were on the way and to stay where I was. Stay quiet. Keep the door locked. For minutes. That's how long it took them to arrive. For minutes is nothing. 4 minutes felt like I aged a decade inside that bathroom, listening to every sound in the apartment. The refrigerator hummed, the radiator ticked, the faint creak of the hallway floor that I told myself was just the building settling. It wasn't. I heard footsteps. Slow. Measured. Moving down the hallway toward the bathroom. They stopped right outside the door. I stopped breathing, then a knock. 3 times. Ma'am, this is Officer Reyes, Milwaukee Police. Are you in there? I have never in my life been so relieved to hear a stranger's voice. They found him inside the closet. He was a man I did not recognize. 30-something, slight build, wearing a dark hoodie and jeans. He had been crouched between my winter coats and a storage bin full of old textbooks. The officer said when they opened the door, he didn't run. Gah. He just looked at them, calm like he'd been expecting it. They found out later he'd gotten in through the window in Priya's room, the one that faces the fire escape. The latch on that window had been loose for months. Priya had mentioned it to our landlord twice. He'd never fixed it. What they didn't find, at least not right away, was any ID on him. No wallet, no phone, nothing in his pockets except a folded piece of paper. I wasn't allowed to see what was on it for a while because it was evidence, but a detective told me later, almost apologetically, that it had my name on it. Just my name, written over and over in small, neat letters, filling the whole page. That's when my legs gave out. I had to sit down on the curb outside my building in the cold at whatever time it was, to something in the morning and just breathe. Here's the part that I still think about. I had never seen this man before in my life. I was certain of that. But the detective assigned to the case, a woman named Torres, who had a quiet, direct way of speaking that I really appreciated, she told me that wasn't necessarily true from his perspective. She asked me where I spent time, my routines, where I worked out, where I got coffee. She was writing everything down. I remember thinking it was strange how ordinary the list sounded. The coffee shop on Clement Street every morning. The 24-hour Walgreens 2 blocks east. The gym on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The laundromat on weekends. She nodded slowly at that last one. She asked if I'd ever noticed anyone at the laundromat who seemed to pay attention to me, who was there often, maybe made small talk. I thought about it. There was a guy. I'd never learned his name. He was just there a lot. He'd made a comment once about the brand of detergent I used. I'd laughed it off. He'd asked once, casually, what neighborhood I lived in, and I'd said something vague, like around here. He'd smiled and nodded. I had not thought about him once between that conversation and this moment. I thought about him every day after it. They were able to identify him eventually. I'm not going to include his name here. He had a restraining order filed by a woman in a different city 3 years earlier. The details of that case I only know pieces of. It was enough. What the prosecutor told me during the prep before his hearing was that based on what they found on that piece of paper and on a burner phone they later recovered from a storage unit linked to him, he had been watching me for approximately 6 weeks. 6 weeks? He had my first name, my last name, my address, my schedule, the name of my employer, the name of my roommate, the make and model of the car I drove. He had photographs he'd taken without my knowledge, at the laundromat, the coffee shop, outside my building. 6 weeks of my ordinary life, and I had never once felt watched. I moved out of that apartment within 2 weeks. Priya and I both did. We didn't talk much after. I think being around me reminded her of it, and being around her reminded me of it, and neither of us needed that. I've thought a lot about what I want people to take from this. Not be paranoid. I do think that is a healthy way to live. I do think most of us are trained to be polite, to not be rude, to laugh things off and move on. That guy at the laundromat made a comment about my detergent. Completely harmless. Made a comment about my neighborhood. Completely harmless. Was there almost every single time I was there. Completely harmless. None of it was harmless. I'm not saying every stranger who makes small talk is dangerous, but I think about how many times I smiled and answered because it felt weird not to. Because I didn't want to be that person who overreacts. Because being friendly is what you do. I still believe in being kind to people. I do. But I keep my routines private now. I vary them when I can. I don't answer questions about where I live, even casually, even vaguely. I keep the windows locked, and I fixed the latch on Priya's window myself about a week before we moved out. Standing on a step stool with a screwdriver at 11 p.m., hands still not totally steady. I just needed to fix it, even though we were leaving. Some things you just need to do. If you're reading this and something similar has happened to you, please report it, even if it feels small, even if you think you're overreacting. The detective who handled my case told me that the most common thing victims say afterward is that they noticed something weeks earlier and talked themselves out of it.